This. This rabbit ornament. 2 weeks ago it was 6 inches to the left. It was here. Saying that, my daughter shifted the rabbit figurine on the cabinet to the left side by 6 inches. Oh. My daughter's voice was so silly. Then, as if in a panic, she turned to me and hastily beckoned to me. Mom, this place is bugged. There's something here that looks like a listening device. What? I stop cooking and rush over to my daughter. There is indeed a wiretap there. A chill runs down my spine. Seeing me like that, my daughter continued. Actually, it's not just here that things are changing positions. Are you sure? The kitchen, Mom and Dad's bedroom, and the bathroom sink. I felt my mind go blank at her words. I think it depends on the person you are talking to as to whether the distance is good or bad to keep the soup cold. My family in-laws and my home are also just such a soup cold distance from each other. We both live in the same city. It's about a 10-minute drive. If you are on good terms with your in-laws, this distance is probably really just fine. However, for people like my mother-in-law and I who are not close, this distance is hell. Because it's a distance that I can come to immediately. She has basically disliked me since the beginning of our marriage. The reason is simple. Because she lost her favorite son because of me. If she hates me, she should just leave me alone, but that is not the case with her. She would often visit my house and bring me things, probably to pry into my home, because she was only 10 minutes away. Most of them are impositions of things we don't want. Milk that has already expired, stewed dishes that I don't know when she made, and so on. My daughter is already in high school, but when she brought me a musty blanket with stains from a hero show, saying, "My son used to use it, and it came out of the closet, so let your child use it," I think my face was drawn back in shame. I couldn't stop getting goosebumps just thinking about how many years it had been in the closet and how many tens of thousands of ticks were on this blanket. And it was routine for me to push things I didn't want, to break into the house without permission, to walk around the house and make each thing difficult before leaving. Do you clean this place properly? There's just pork and chicken in the fridge. You have to make sure Thurman eats beef. By the way, Thurman is my husband. It was really a stressful time for me to say, "I understand," or to just humor him appropriately while doing the housework. When I told my husband about it, he always apologized to me with an apologetic look on his face. "I'm sorry about my mom. I told her we didn't want it." "It's okay. It's not your fault, Thurman. I wish she'd let me go." I was still saved by the fact that my husband was completely on my side like this. She would often bring me things that I didn't need as if she was harassing me, but sometimes she would bring me things that I needed. For example, before going to bed, my husband would tell me, "This month will be tough because we need to get some stuff." Then the next day the doorbell rings and she says, "Here, use this for Thurman." I just happened to get a refund from our insurance. Listen. I've told you many times, it's for Thurman. If Thurman doesn't call me, I'll think you stole it, and she would give me $10,000. On another occasion, when my husband said to me, "My towels are pretty worn out," she rang the doorbell about 3 days later and brought a cardboard box full of brand new towels. She would say, "I got this as a prize at the bingo game." As expected, this had been happening several times since we were newlyweds, so one day I felt uncomfortable and asked her about it. I was wondering why sometimes you give me things that we really need. When I said this, she huffed and laughed in a pompous manner and said condescendingly to me, "I'm kind of special, I've always had that gift. When I give something to someone, it's something they need right now. It's like when I hold something in my hand, I know where the person who needs it is going. Maybe it's what's called a sixth sense." Well, I guess it's a feeling that my uncaring wife wouldn't understand. Is she sick and dying if she doesn't say something sarcastic? And despite her great words, I didn't really trust her ability, since it was 80% unnecessary things and 20% necessary things, and I thought I would be lucky if I hit it. Speaking of abilities, my only daughter, 16-year-old Tessie, has quite an interesting ability. When she was only 4 years old, she memorized and copied from memory a list of letters that I had shown her only once. I thought she might be a genius and took her to a specialist. The diagnosis I received was absolute memory. It is now called camera eye or something like that. She can instantly memorize what she has seen once. It was said that she had a camera-like ability. We were both momentarily excited to be told that he was a genius. However, the teacher there made a reluctant face. It's really hard for a child to have this ability. People forget 60% of the events of the day. But a child with this ability remembers everything. It's really tough not to forget. And because of their ability, they tend to expect too much. It can also be hard to communicate. I can't meddle in family matters, but if it's okay with your parents, please let them raise her as a normal child, respecting her wishes, rather than expecting too much of her. The doctor's kind words made my husband and I nod our heads in agreement, ashamed that we had been so excited even for a moment. My daughter remembers what she saw once. She remembers almost everything she hears at once. She remembers even the slightest expression or movement of a person in detail. Since she became a high school student, she has received almost perfect scores in the national mock examinations, and was even invited by a foreign university that had heard rumors about her. However, because of this ability, she has been suspected of cheating and of being dishonest in many other things, so she has only negative feelings about her ability. Therefore, she has no intention of using her ability, which can be a wonderful thing depending on how it is used, and is attending a local public high school and spending a leisurely life with her friends. As a parent, if she is fine with it, it's fine. One day. It was Sunday, my husband was relaxing and watching TV, and I was about to cook dinner. In the evening, my daughter, who was playing with her friends, came home and said this to me. "Hey, there's something that's been bothering me." What is it? I answered her question while making dinner. "Mom, you change the position of your things a lot, don't you?" "What?" I nodded my head as she pointed out an action I didn't remember. "I don't think I do that much. Because of my lazy nature, the only time I move furniture and small objects to clean is when I do the year-end cleaning. Of course, I do something as simple as dusting with a brush." It was my daughter's turn to shake her head at me. "I've been thinking, since I can remember, to be exact. Every 2 weeks or so, you change the position of something a little bit, about 4 inches, right? Does that mean anything to you?" I asked my daughter with a dubious look on my face, as I had no recollection of this at all. "Does it? I didn't move it. Really, only when I do the year-end cleaning. Tell me what's different about it." When I asked her that, she strode toward a cabinet in the living room. She pointed to a rabbit figurine on top of it. "This is this rabbit figurine. 2 weeks ago, it was 6 inches to the left. It's around here." Then she shifted the rabbit figurine 6 inches to the left. "Oh!" my daughter shouted in a hushed voice. Then, as if in a panic, she turned to me and hastily beckoned me over. "Mom! There's something here, like a bug." "What?" I had goosebumps. My husband, who had been watching TV in the back of the house, heard the commotion and came up to us to see what was going on. When the 3 of us peeked in, we found a small wiretap installed there. It was a small bug, about the size of a fat thumb. The red light was on, indicating that it was firmly activated. I pointed at it with a trembling hand and asked my husband. Hey, did you set this up? What? My husband shouted in a crazy voice. I was relieved to see that my husband was not the culprit. But then, fear rushed over me. If it wasn't my husband, then who was it? But it's a wiretap, isn't it? Hey, why is it here? My husband's face turned pale and a chill ran down everyone's spine, and then my daughter spoke up gravely. You know, it's actually not the only place where things have changed position over the last 2 weeks. Are you sure? My husband and my voices harmonized perfectly. So, where the heck else would that be? My daughter pulled my husband and I away, saying, "Come here a minute." We all had cold hands and you could tell we were nervous. The second one is here. She pointed to the coffee machine in the cupboard. It has been moved about 4 inches to the right. My husband and I both cleared our throats. As if determined, my husband put his hand on the coffee maker and moved it 4 inches to the left. Oh my God. It was then that I learned for the first time that when we really feel fear, our throats do the clearing on their own. There, unmistakably, was a wiretap of the exact same type as before. And then, in your bedrooms and in the bathroom. My daughter said with a stiff look on her face, and we walked down the hallway to her bedroom with unfathomable fear in our hearts as she led us by the hand. When we entered the bedroom, at first glance it was hard to tell what had changed. It was a bedroom, so besides the bed, there were only a few decorative plants and a clock hanging on the wall. What's changed about this place? The position of the bed, the houseplants, and the clock did not seem to have changed at all. The position of the bed, the houseplants, and the clock don't seem to have changed at all. But the angle of the clock is a little different from 2 weeks ago. It's really slight. It's as if someone has intentionally touched it. Her husband cleared his throat and swallowed a mouthful of spit. Then he climbed into bed and gently removed the wall clock. Gasped my husband. There, hidden away, was the very same thing as before. Here's another one. My husband says, making me pale. My heart jumps at my husband's mutterings. And the bathroom was bugged as well. My husband retrieved all 4 listening devices. He put them on the table in the living room and was stunned for a while, but then he came to his senses and stood up and said, Anyway, call the police. I said. Right. With trembling hands, I operated my phone and immediately called the police to inform them that the house had been bugged. I was relieved when they replied that they would be right there. However, an inexpressible sense of dread was still clinging to me. Who in the world would do this? And for what purpose? For the time being, we sat on the sofa, snuggled together as a family, and waited for the police to arrive. It has only been a few minutes since we called the police, but the wait feels like hours. After a while, the intercom rang with a ding-dong, and our family stood up as if we had been played. Finally, the police must have arrived. But the person on the intercom camera was not the police, but my mother-in-law. Oh, hi. Can you let me in for a minute? She came suddenly, smiling as she said so, holding a paper bag in her hand. She seemed to have brought me something again. To be honest, it was nothing but a nuisance at such a busy time of the day. Hey, I'm actually in a great deal of trouble right now. I said as she opened the door, imploring me to leave, but she quickly stepped in and forced her way into the house. Oh no, wait. I watched her slink into the house without hearing me stop her with a dark feeling. What's the big deal? She asks as we walk down the hallway to the living room where my husband and daughter are waiting. I think someone has bugged the house, and we don't know who did it, so it's kind of creepy. My husband and daughter look back at me and her as I open the living room door, really wishing they would leave. Mom. What's going on? It's already late at night. It had already been about an hour since he had found the first bug in the evening, and it was nighttime outside. I heard you found some kind of bug or something. Yes. It's just creepy. My husband says with a frightened look. I know it's creepy. I thought it must be, so I brought you this. Saying this, she took out of a paper bag a hammer made of iron. What? My husband and I and my daughter's eyes are on point. What is she saying? Hey, why are you bringing that thing? My husband says in a trembling voice. I told you, didn't I? I know what people need. You'd have to destroy such a thing as a wiretap, wouldn't you? I thought you might need this. Well, that was good timing. Saying this, she holding the hammer was completely horrified, her eyes not smiling. I feel my blood rush to my veins. How is it possible to have a hunch about such things? It's just not common sense. Then why did she bring such a thing? I can think of only one reason. I ask her in a trembling voice. My voice is hoarse with fear. Could it be, you who planted this bug in my room? She only smiled once in reply to my question, but did not reply properly. Her smile seemed to be an affirmation, and I felt goosebumps rise on my skin. My hands and feet are cold. This is not something a normal person would do. So, how did you ever give our family what we needed from time to time? My daughter blurts out next to me and I realize. Yes, that's right. She has certainly given us things we needed in our home many times in between unnecessary things and garbage. But all of those times were when I've mentioned what I needed. And the fact that it was from the beginning of our honeymoon means that it was bugged from the beginning of our honeymoon. That meant that my mother-in-law knew everything that was going on in the house from the beginning of our marriage. It's horrible, I had goosebumps all over my body again. Gross. The daughter mumbles something and the husband looks at his own mother as if she were a ghost. Seeing us, she grinned for a moment and raised the hammer. If you say you don't feel good, I'll break it for you. No. No, she was just making up some excuse like that, trying to destroy the evidence. That's when I realized this and screamed. What was that screaming? What are you doing? Voices echoed throughout the living room, and several police officers came rushing into the room, blocking the movements of her, who was holding a hammer. She rolls her eyes at the sudden appearance of these strong men, desperately resisted. However, no matter how many hammers they held, she was helpless in front of the trained police. What the heck is wrong with you people? Get off me. Let go of me. She was yelling and raging as if she had changed. My daughter and I held each other's hands tightly and watched the bizarre scene in front of us with bated breath. Please don't let go. That's the person who planted the bug. My husband loudly complained, and in no time at all the police had completely blocked her movements. Then a group of people called the forensic team rushed to the scene, and everyone's fingerprints were taken. While waiting for the results, we sat on the couch under police surveillance. Of course, our family kept our distance from her. I didn't do it. It was all made up by this woman. She, who had regained her composure by that time, looked blue and told such a lie without a care in the world. He was restless, fidgeting with his left thumb, clutching it with his right hand. What proof do you have that I planted the idea? You always had what I needed at the right time, didn't you? That was because you were listening in on our conversations, wasn't it? I told you. I told that I had a hunch. That's all. Do you have any proof that I brought you what you said you wanted? I couldn't help but get angry at her, who was still pretending not to know. It is true that there is no evidence of a wiretap unless it is recorded. The fact that she was so brazen about it suggests that she didn't record what she was eavesdropping on. My daughter, who was watching her, opened her mouth and said this. Since the beginning of this year. On January 29th, my dad mentioned that he wanted a light-down comforter. 2 days later, on January 31st, Grandma came over and left the comforter. On April 2nd, Dad told Mom, "There's a hole in my pants." Then, on April 3rd, Grandma brought a pair of men's pants. Everybody looked at her with open mouths. Of course I remember bringing those things. But I still don't remember the exact date. My daughter glared at her grandmother with cold eyes, as if she were trying to get her to do something. It was a glare that clearly showed her disgust. If you don't mind my memory, since I noticed, I can testify to all the dates my dad said he wanted something, and the dates my grandmother brought it to. Now that I'm slowly remembering and thinking about it, all the things my dad said he wanted or needed, Grandma only brought them to him. It's so clear to know that you only love him. You know, Grandma. My memory is certified by the doctor at the hospital, so that's proof enough. What's this? You're as disgusting as ever. Her face turned blue. But what stuck with me was the way she said, "as ever." What is it? You said, "as ever." I asked her with a sense of disgust. Then she gave me a look that made me feel sick from the bottom of my heart. That's disgusting. I can't believe she remembers everything. My daughter did not hide her ill feelings toward her. Grandma, you've always hated me, haven't you? I've never received anything I've asked for. Sometimes when you do give me something, it's a blanket with stains all over it, and it's nothing more than harassment. You don't even hide the look of disgust on her face when she sees me. Have you noticed, Grandma? When you look at me, your left eye narrows a little. You make the same face when you see things you don't like snakes and gophers. That's what's so weird about you. You look like you have it all figured out. My daughter's words and her screeching voice astonished both my husband and me. We had thought that she was cold toward me, but we had not expected her to have such ill feelings toward my daughter. The person who broke the tense atmosphere was the forensic scientist. We have the results. Everyone gasped. Her face couldn't have been stern. Suck it. My daughter blurted out next to me and I reflexively looked at her. My daughter is grinning and watching the proceedings. The forensic guy opens his mouth. The fingerprints on the wiretap match those of this person. Of course, there was one fingerprint of your husband who touched it when he was collecting it, but only her fingerprints were sticky. Could you please accompany us to the station? So, the police urged her. She grudgingly but obediently obeyed the police. I've noticed that when she is in a hurry, she has a habit of moving away from her left thumb. She had been doing that from the moment we took her fingerprints, so I was sure we would find her fingerprints on the wiretap. All that messing around was just a bad idea. My daughter's words took me by surprise for what seemed like the umpteenth time today. She was arrested for trespassing and filming, which was also considered a misdemeanor. Since then, her house has also been raided, and machines and other equipment used for wiretapping were seized as conclusive evidence. It was learned during the subsequent interviews that she loved her son so much that she had been bugging our house since the beginning of their marriage in order to keep an eye on the family. The first reason she frequently brought unnecessary items called souvenirs was to camouflage her husband's wiretapping by bringing him only what he wanted. Second, she used it as an excuse to get into the house and replace or relocate the wiretaps while I was taking care of other business. She said that it was her right as a mother to know how her son was spending his time. I shudder to think that I have no idea what a crazy person's thought process is. After that, we got rid of everything she had given us. She was not sentenced to jail, but the court issued a restraining order against our family. If she violated it, she said she would face jail time this time. I was simply amazed at my daughter's abilities this time around. I also learned that fake abilities can never be as good as real ones.